So what was the name of the man that Pilate tried to trade for Jesus? Was it Jesus Barabbas or was it Barabbas? I saw a note the other day circulating on the internet that Bibles were changing the name of the person, of the prisoner that Pilate was trying to trade for Jesus, and was making a point that the translations were wrong. Well, I just wish people that made comments about translations and the Greek text actually knew a little Greek. If you go to Matthew 27:16, and this is the NA 28, which is our latest critical text, you'll see that now at that time there was a well-known prisoner being called Jesus Barabbas. And you notice that Iesun is in brackets. That's the Greek translator's way of telling us that there's a question about whether Iesun is original or not. And it's interesting to look at the different translations. Back in the 84 NIV, they wrote called Barabbas. In other words, they thought that the word in brackets wasn't original. You go to the 2011, and the translation committee changed their mind, and they included Jesus, and they included a footnote. Many manuscripts do not have Jesus, also in verse 17. This is just an example of how Greek manuscripts of the New Testament have differences. There's no conspiracy on the part of translators. It's just there's a judgment call that has to be made as to whether Iesun is original or not. It's interesting to look at the different translations, and you'll see the NASB says Barabbas, ESV Barabbas, CSB Barabbas, but notice that there's a footnote. Other manuscripts read Jesus Barabbas. That's honest. NRSV, Jesus Barabbas. The Net Bible is Jesus Barabbas, and with a characteristically long footnote explaining it. NLT, Barabbas, again with a footnote explaining it. So this is not a conspiracy. This is just the differences among the Greek manuscripts, and you have to make a judgment call. It's interesting to look at the footnote in the Net Bible. It's quite extensive. They make the point that the Greek manuscripts that have the word Jesus, Iesun, in them are actually quite weak. They're not very strong manuscript evidence. The vast majority of the manuscripts do not have the word Iesun. But this is where internal evidence comes to play. Is it more likely that Iesun would have been added, which would give Barabbas the same name as Jesus, or is it more likely that scribes looked at his name and said, well, he has the same name as Jesus, at least partially, and so they're going to drop it out. So there's an Iesus, which is our Jesus, and there's Barabbas, the other prisoner. So the translations that have the translation Jesus show a translation committee's decision that it would be highly unlikely for the Iesun to be added, that it must be original and was later dropped out for piety reasons. But either way you go on this, it's not a conspiracy. It's not a reflection of a bad translation. About half the translations had footnotes that showed that there was an option to have Iesun. It's just a judgment call based on textual criticism. If you don't know Greek, let's not pass judgments that require a knowledge of Greek.